Hey, what's good? Your boy No Love just hitting you up with another one of these reviews and reflections. Today we got an old school 2003 October 1st East Bay Express that was released. Had a pretty good interview with Sir Dyno in there. Had a lot of shit that was going down at the time. Like that was when Black Widow and all that shit was going down. This dude, Justin Berton, he had actually written this article, but he did two articles. This was his first one, and then he released his second one a year later, talking a little bit more about stuff. I'll probably release that one at a later time, but yeah, he did two articles. They were pretty in detail, man. They were like some in-depth articles. They had a lot of shit going on in there nobody knew about before, nobody seen pictures. So he hit from a good perspective. So I'm gonna put this one out there. A lot of people haven't seen this before. I've fucking been doing this a long time, and I haven't seen anybody that's had one of these. When I got this, one of my homeboys had hit me up at the time and said, "Hey, bro, did you see these fucking articles that are out to East Bay Express?" And at the time, East Bay Express was one of those articles that, or those magazines that you had to find. Like they had maybe shit in like Rasputin's, places like that. You would go to like independent places. Maybe if you were lucky, you would catch one of these boxes around town. You can get a free one from at the liquor store or something like that. I'd go to like liquor stores around town, see if I could find them. But when homie told me about this one, I went all around the city looking, and found it at one liquor store that they had like a couple copies. So grab one. I think I had a couple, sold them back in the days. But yeah, this isn't like one you're gonna see all the time. You'll probably see a lot more of those books that are out there. I'm not going to really put any names out there, but you know the books I'm talking about. They touch on all the gang topics between, Northerners, Southerners. They're on eBay. They go for crazy ass prices, $1,000 plus sometimes, depending on the book, how rare it is. But yeah, this is one of those ones that touched on things you never really see it out there. You never really heard of it. I don't know anybody that really has any aside from the one I got. I'll probably get comments later, people saying they have them, but like I said, I've never really seen them. I've never seen one I could buy from anybody or anybody that had any for sale. So this is the one I got. I'm gonna read it to you, but yeah, I'm just heads up, putting this out there as more of a historical document. Anybody that follows me, I'm a audio historian. I collect all this shit. I put it out there for you guys to see. East Bay Express, I don't believe they are active anymore. Like they don't write articles, they don't release magazines or anything like that. So you're gonna have a hard time finding it. You'll find it online, but a hard copy, you're not really gonna see them out there. So I'm gonna post this one up. This isn't me condoning anything. This isn't me fucking condemning anything. I'm not telling you, hey, you should do this, you should do that. This is real, that's not. I'm not gonna hit you with insight on this because I don't like to get into shit like this. Like this is prison politics shit. It stays behind the walls. I ain't one of these pages where I'm here boosting shit up and trying to start snitching on motherfuckers and doing all that. And like, nah, this is a released article a long time ago, so I'm just reading what the article says. And that if you want to take whatever you want to take away from this, that's up to you. I'm not telling you go join a gang, go hit the pen, go start putting in work. That shit ain't meant for everybody. So you take this as a historical piece and not me telling you to go out and do shit, or this is how you should be, or this is the way shit is, or for you to make a YouTube channel and start snitching on motherfuckers. Like that's not what it is. This shit was released, so I'm just here reading it to you. So we're gonna get into it. Not gonna go through the whole magazine because this wasn't like a magazine that had a lot of articles like this at the time. It had this one article and then everything else in there. Most of my followers are not interested in. They're not going to be reading that shit or wanting it. I mean, unless you want to have one of these fucking pages on like how to meet sex dates or some shit like that. I mean, show you some concerts, maybe a couple casinos you could check out. That's about it, but you're not really gonna find anything huge of interest in here, aside from maybe like massage parlors around town. Yeah, get you one of those. So yeah, that's the one thing about this magazine. It had a couple good articles a lot of times, and the rest was just advertisements, upcoming concerts, shit like that. So we're gonna get into this one. East Bay Express, volume 25, number 51. Sir Dyno's Deal with the Devil. Rapper David Rocha thought a Norteño Gangsta CD was his ticket to glory, not life in prison, by Justin Berton. Another thing, this was 2 years after 9/11, so you probably see some 9/11 shit pop up in here, maybe. But yeah, it was 2 years after. So let's see what we got. All right, got some cameras for sale. Let's see, mattresses. What we got? Chairs. All right, here we go. Table of contents. Sir Dyno's Deal with the Devil, page 14. Rapper David Rocha thought a Norteño Gangsta CD was a ticket to glory, not life in prison. Justin Berton got Neo Soul Sister, Do the Chicken Dance, and Rebirth of the Blues. So those are your main articles in the table of contents. Let's see what we got. All right, here we go. Sir Dyno's Deal with the Devil by Justin Berton. One morning this past August, Sir Dyno sat in his Dodge Caravan stuck in I-580 traffic, knowing he'd be late for his court hearing in San Francisco. It wasn't quite the impression he wanted to make. In fact, the 31-year-old gangster rapper, whose real name is David Rocha, wanted nothing more than to distance himself from his co-defendants. By the time Dyno got to the specially constructed federal courtroom, he was 15 minutes behind schedule. The rapper arrived dressed in a neatly pressed beige Dickies pants, spotless work boots, and an untucked flannel print shirt, a vato in his Sunday best, mumbling his apologies. His shackled co-defendants didn't even look at him as he took the seat among them. It was a hell of an audience to keep waiting. Chained to their seats on a triple-tiered bleacher facing the jury box were 14 men dressed in blood-red jumpsuits, black tattoo ink scribbled across their forearms and crawled up their necks, and some of them hid stone-faced beneath their Ray-Ban style sunglasses. They were, according to the government, members of Nuestra Familia's Northern California's most notorious and ruthless prison gang. There sat Cornelio Corny Tristan, one of 3 alleged NF generals. He already was serving a life sentence for murder in Pelican Bay State Prison, but now he was under indictment for ordering a hit on underboss named Miguel Maikio Castillo. Not far from Tristan sat Rico Smiley Garcia, facing the death penalty for carrying out his boss's orders and putting 2 bullets in the back of Castillo's head. There was also the lean and smooth figure of Gerald Cuete Rubalcaba, the gang's most powerful captain, whose job inside Pelican Bay, a fellow gang member told the feds, was to keister the syndicate's constitution in his rectum, along with the master hit list, which by now read 50 names long. There was Henry Happy Cervantes, built like a fire hydrant, who got caught on an FBI wire ordering the murder of 2 Santa Clara County district attorneys, and all 21 people were indicted into the FBI's 3-year investigation into Nuestra Familia, codenamed Operation Black Widow. When it concluded in April 2001 after a $5 million investment, it was one of the largest takedowns on a prison gang in U.S. history. The amount of violence attributed to the men inside the courtroom and their associates on the outside was staggering. 15 killings, 8 conspiracies to murder, 10 attempted murders, 10 felony assaults, 100 assaults, and 2 drive-by shootings. The official list of charges, which included more than 30 drug-related crimes along with the state's extortion and robbery, simply ended with the open-ended clause and other numerous crimes. One of those footnotes involves Sir Dyno, who, despite his history of gangster rap posturing, clearly is not a criminal on par with his co-defendants. His alleged crime is conspiracy, in other words, simply having associated with the men sitting beside him. The deep trouble in which he now finds himself has everything to do with his performance on a gang-funded rap CD titled Generation of United Norteños Till Eternity. The rapper's story varies somewhat depending on who's doing the telling. Ultimately, it'll be a jury's role to sort out the truth, but this much everybody can agree on. 1997, an NF captain named Robert Güero Graton was paroled from Pelican Bay State Prison, moved to Modesto, and started a label called North Star Records. Graton knew nothing about the music business, but he had bricks of cash and a simple plan to produce a rap CD that would work as a recruiting tool for Nuestra Familia and also serve as a launder to the gang's drug money. The album would reach the unification of Norteños Chicanos born north of an invisible border located somewhere around Fresno, who once inside the prison system were eligible to join Nuestra Familia. All Graton needed was a rapper. He found his man in David Sir Dyno Rocha, then a 26-year-old budding rhymer and producer from Tracy. It is here that the stories began to diverge. Rocha claims that in the 11 or so months he knew Graton, the parolee never discussed his ties to the highly secretive prison gang. Instead, he says Graton talked business. He offered to cover all production costs and promised Sir Dyno a 50-50 split on the profits. To the broke and ambitious rapper, the deal sounded too good to refuse. Berton, Sir Dyno says, wanted him to aim his lyrics at bringing together norteños. At the time, norteño street gangs were engaged in red-on-red turf wars and were giving up overall ground to the sureños, their blue-clad enemies from the south. On 7 of the CD's 14 tracks, Sir Dyno raps as hired. He's a heartless gangster with a nihilistic agenda. He makes drug deals here. He caps sureños there. He disses cops everywhere. All of it in the name of norteño supremacy. You see, this is Norte, he growls on the scrap killer XIV-14. Don't ever ask me what I mean. I got the gat that will put you in the dirt. I piss on your grave with your mama's feelings hurt. Sir Dyno claims Berton stiffed him on the payments a few months after the CD hit the street, and that he never worked with the dude again till eternity, which most people simply call GUNCD. Turned out to be one of about 50 discs that the prolific rapper had appeared on the past 10 years, and the most militant in its norteño ideology. Dyno has since explained his own label, Darkroom Studios, starred in 3 independent movies, and penned a fictional autobiography about a gangster named Joaquin who takes up arms for the Zapatistas. Today, the real Sir Dyno has 5 kids, a home in Tracy, and makes a living off of CD sales, which he estimates at beyond 100,000 nationwide. I didn't realize lyrics could be taken so serious, he now says, claiming that only he rapped for shock value on GUN, only to sell records. In a way, it is compliment to me. I even convinced the government that I'm this crazy guy. If Sir Dyno were only about lyrics, it's likely the First Amendment would swiftly end the debate in his favor. But the feds believe his relationship with Berton ran deeper than words on wax. Under the federal RICO laws used to indict criminal organizations like Nuestra Familia, anyone who knowingly associates with one member of a gang becomes part of it. And if the gang goes down, so does he. When the NF trial began on November 3rd, jury selection starts this week. Federal attorneys will use photographs and lyrics from the GUNCD to argue that Sir Dyno knew Berton was affiliated with the mob, and in the eyes of the law, that would make Sir Dyno a real-life gangster. Now, for a CD he cut 5 years ago, a guy he claims he barely knew for $1 he never made, David Arocha faces a life sentence on a single count of conspiracy. There's no denying Sir Dyno is norteño, but he's careful to explain that a norteño isn't necessarily a gang member, just a Chicano proud of his province. I'm a northerner, he says, arms wide. That's who I am. Inside his Tracy home, he sits comfortable against his oversized cushions on his fluffy couch with his baby daughter rocking to sleep a few feet away. He's 31 now, soft-spoken and contemplative, a Papa Bear figure, a Chicano Dr. Dre, hardly the guy who would urinate on a dead man's plot. But claiming norteño is at least a step towards gang culture where the stakes are high. In the logic of Chicano interstate rivalry, there are norteños and sureños, and even if you're not running with the corner gang, you're still vulnerable to getting whacked by your enemy. If you're a norteño and you're flamed up in red, a 49er jersey will do. A lone sureño who might be dressed in his Dodger blue could make a move on you unprovoked. It's just that easy. It is, Sir Dyno says. It's as sensible as the East Coast West Coast thing. Sir Dyno accepts the rivalry, and it's where many of his raps come from. As a kid growing up in the small town, David Rocha was a freestyle BMXer who bounced along on one wheel during 4th of July parades. His bike frame was made by Dyno, so the kids at school called him Dyno Dave. By the time he turned 20, through youthful angst had sunk in, and 2 short cassettes found a home in Dyno Dave's new music box, Sir Dyno was born. He used to rap to vent about what every other 20-year-old male stuck in his small town vents about, how fucked up life is, and when the rhyme ran out, as it usually does, he went where other rappers go to make up for the sudden loss of material. He started making shit up. Rap is an exaggeration of life, he says, just like in a movie. Everybody knows that nobody expects you to rap exactly what your life is. I mean, I would think not, but you better have some realness to it if you're going to rap that way. Despite his marketed image, Sir Dyno now claims he never known anyone who died from gang warfare, never had anyone close to him go off to prison, but life was still rough, he says, and drug deals and violence went down in front of his eyes, even if it was what he calls mostly high school stuff, kid stuff, stupid stuff. He admits to selling pot, but only small time, just enough to support myself. From those experiences, he says, he extrapolated in his art and began rapping in the netherworld of myth, that place where facts give way to the cushion of fiction, where arrogance and boasting overtake the narrative. He rapped about how much money he'd make and how famous he'd get, how many women he could tag, how many people he'd shoot. It sold, and he knew why. The only way to sell was to shock, he says. The more shock you had in your raps at the time, the more you sold. Whatever it is, you got to go to the extreme. Not just in rap, but everywhere people like the extreme. He was one of the few who really got off their butts and did it, says Eduardo Crooked Quiros, a rapper and filmmaker who has known Sir Dyno for 10 years. Everyone says they want to rap, says they want to make a CD, but David was really doing it. He was all business at the time. By the time he turned 25, Dyno had carved his own niche as a Chicano gangster rapper, mixing Spanish with English. He turned his parents' garage into a makeshift studio, recorded cassettes, and sold them at lowrider shows and the East Bay record stores. He recorded from the Barrio with Love, taking his name outside of California and into the pockets of Chicano markets in places such as Phoenix, Denver, Albuquerque, along with Crooked and other Bay Area rhymes. The Darkroom Familia took off as 12-member supergroup touring the West on their own dime. All of them toting the street thug lifestyle, even though when he was broke and sleeping on his friends' couches, Sir Dyno felt he was on the cusp of one big time ready to break. On April 30th, 1997, Robert Güero Graton arrived in Modesto fresh from Pelican Bay. He began his criminal career as a teenage Norteño gang member, pulling off smash-and-grab robberies of jewelry stores. When he entered Corcoran State Prison in 1989 for selling cocaine, he joined Nuestra Raza, a recruiting gang for the more esteemed Nuestra Familia. Inside the state prison system, Norteños side with Nuestra Familia syndicates, and Sureños with La M, aka the Mexican Mafia. It is estimated for every NF member, there are 7 La M. During his time with Nuestra Raza, Graton learned the boot camp basics, how to make shanks, decode letters, and memorize the NF Constitution. Most importantly, he showed a willingness to draw a Sureño blood. After Graton stabbed an enemy in Corcoran, he was transferred to Pelican Bay's infamous secured housing unit for the College for Prison Gangsters. There Graton made a full-fledged Nuestra Familia member. He took the gang's oath, blood in, blood out, and rose to the rank of captain within a few years. On his first day of freedom, according to Graton's account, a Norteño named Big Smokey met him on the bus terminal, set him up with $5,000 cash, a 9mm pistol, and a condom. Graton stands only 5'7", but his bold tattoos did the talking. A small star on his forehead suggested he killed someone in prison, even though in truth he hadn't. The large XIV across his throat represented 14th letter of the alphabet, N for Norte. Graton had been deployed by his bosses to run the gang's Zapatista crew, which operated in Modesto, Tracy, and Turlock areas. As a captain, he answered only to a handful of high-ranking capos and 3 generals inside Pelican Bay. He hung out at the Modesto nightclub La Familia Garcia's and set up meth ring using Norteño gangsters as runners. An enterprise he now claims earned him $10,000 a day. He kept a stable of flashy cars, but favored a cherried-out 1969 Impala with a vanity license plate that read Norteño. Graton's wife was the cousin of rapper named Eclipse, who at the time was a member of Darkroom Familia. Graton sought out Sir Dyno because the rapper had a following needed to produce a successful CD and was familiar with music distribution and marketing. After a few meetings, he told Sir Dyno he wanted to finance a project, but instead of using the rapper's already established label, Graton opted to launch North Star Records. Job seemed like a good fit. I could rap political, I could rap street, it doesn't matter, Sir Dyno says. I'm from up here. I grew up with Norteño friends. I said, yeah, I could rap like that, whatever you want. The 50% look like gold. Sir Dyno claims he never asked where Graton got his money, or whether or not the jury believes that could be key to his fate. Graton said he was sick and tired of going back to prison. He didn't want to go back. He wants to be legitimate, Dyno recalls. So he wants to sell cars and start a record company. I didn't know the guy was selling drugs too. I mean, he wasn't going to tell me, and I wasn't going to tell him what I was doing. Even though the project had cash potential tomorrow, Sir Dyno still needed money today. For the reason, he explains, he turned to dealing methamphetamine. He had 2 daughters to support, and payments from other rap projects were slow coming in. I did what I had to do, he says. Graton, meanwhile, had Sir Dyno write out a business plan which offers a glimpse of the rapper's instinct to use shock value to boost sales. By releasing GUN, it will help establish the label financially. The quickest way to get money back would be to release a Norteño album. It would bring the most attention to the most sales. The only problem is limiting of audience outside Northern California. After costs for radio spots and posters and printing the plan, estimated profits of $21,051 on the first 4,000 units, besides directing the tone of the project, Graton asked to narrate the intro over an ominous keyboard drone. He speaks deliberately as if issuing a UN speech. The primary purpose and goals of this album is to promote unity amongst each and every one of us as Norteños. This is a combined effort to enlighten the worthy, as the time is now and we must leave old attitudes to the past and adopt new and more meaningful and fulfilling ideas. Just as knowledge can be the key, there is strength in numbers. Therefore, Norteños can no longer continue to fight against one another. All Norteños must unite with the determination to fight and challenge all those who oppose our unity and advancement towards equal justice. With that, let us each as Norteños recognize the true purpose of this album and come together henceforth, presenting a strong united front. Que viva puros Norteños unidos. For the cover art, Sir Dyno says he told all of his friends to tell their friends to show up at a park wearing their red. On the back of his cover, he stands next to Graton flashing XIV signs. The images leave no doubt the rapper supports Norteños, but nowhere on the CD or in the lyrics do the words Nuestra Familia appear. After a few weeks of writing and recording, the CD was released on Cinco de Mayo of 1998 and found its audience immediately. Sir Dyno believed he had just made a wise career choice. Jared Lewis, a former Modesto gang investigator, says the impact of GUN was felt on the streets. Right after the CD came out, the red-on-red violence all but ended. He says kids everywhere were listening to it closely, and according to his informants, Lewis says Sir Dyno was indeed just as the rapper portrays himself before Graton came to town, broke and desperate to get famous. Sir Dyno wanted to make a name for himself, Lewis says, so he sold his soul to the devil and got what he wanted. Out only 3 months, GUN was drawing the attention its makers craved, and then some. For Norteños, it was a rallying call with a cruising, bounce your shock soundtrack, lo-fi beats backed on simple, repetitive keyboard riffs on one slow-burning track. Sir Dyno raps in a stone vibrato. Today when I got up, I knew it was a good day. Got my red shirt, Dickies, I'm on my way. After the initial press run, Graton restocked stores with an additional 1,000 CDs. Still, Sir Dyno says he wasn't getting paid. The rapper says he'd pressed Graton for cash, but the label owner always had an excuse. Maybe he'd give him $100 to shut me up, or $50 to shut me up. He says, or gas money or something. In August 1998, the CD appeared on the radar of Tim Hilton, an investigator on Modesto street terrorism and apprehension team. In a memo to his colleagues, Hilton asked about spotting GUN promotional posters around town and learning from a confidential informant that Robert Graton was one of the faces on the posters, was financing North Star from meth sales. Hilton checked out Graton's business license and learned that Sir Dyno's involvement through the music distributor. Later, when Hilton's team arrested an alleged Nuestra Familia member named Vidal Spider Favela. During a traffic stop, they found GUN posters and CDs in his car, again cementing a link between the prison gang and local Norteños. The apprehension team's scrutiny proved to be Sir Dyno's downfall. In November 1998, he was pulled over on a traffic violation. Police dogs sniffed through his car and came up with 3 ounces of crystal meth. Following his arrival at the jail, Dyno was interviewed by Thomas Rabota, another Modesto detective. According to Rabota's report, when he asked about the rapper's affiliation, Rocha denied having any gang involvement but is a Norteño. I spoke to a clarification officer in the San Joaquin County Jail, who confirmed that Rocha claimed to be a Norteño but didn't claim a particular set of a gang. It was during the interrogation Sir Dyno says he learned about Graton's connection to Nuestra Familia. That's when I started pulling away, he says. Still, the weekend he got out, he was intent on getting paid. By now, rumors were swirling that GUN had pulled down between $50,000 and $80,000. The rapper says his final meetings with Berton occurred while the label owner was outside washing his car. Berton was shirtless, a large Nuestra Familia tattoo visible in bold letters across his back. I kind of paused, Dyno says, adding that he suddenly thought better of asking too many questions. Man, I'm from the streets. I know there's some things you don't ask. Dyno claims that's the moment he realized he'd been duped and would never see his cash. I can't muscle the guy because I don't know what he's involved with, he reasons, so either I make an issue of it or make an enemy I don't want, or just let it go. Chalk it up as a loss, just let it go and move on. That's what I decided to do. A few short weeks later, the rapper signed a new contract with Dog Day Records and quickly released an album called Gang Stories. On the new CD, he pounded out a few Norteño rhymes, deriving material from his meth bust, and after which he pleaded guilty to a reduced charge and was sentenced to a year of house arrest. One of Gang Stories' tracks about issuing payback on the cops, a voice in the background calls out Detective Robota's name, a suggestion to watch his back. The voice doesn't sound like Dyno's, but officers in the street took offense. According to one source, Robota took the CD to the San Joaquin County District Attorney Office to see if it constituted an official threat to a police officer. Citing the First Amendment, the DA chose not to pursue the case. Robota declined comment for the story in light of the upcoming trial. Not long after Gang Stories came out, Berton released North Star's second title, a compilation called Cuete. Sir Dyno claims Berton lifted tracks from Gang Stories without permission and put them on Cuete to give listeners the impression Sir Dyno was still on North Star Records. Regardless, the compilation had limited success and never took off like G1 CD, Lewis and Helton say. But rumors about G1's success filtered back up Pelican Bay, and Berton began receiving frequent letters from his boss, Gerald Cuete Rubalcaba. The boss reminded Berton that the money belonged to the gang and demanded more deposits into Nuestra Familia bank account. Berton, already growing weary with gang after learning that one of his closest allies, Robert Brown Bob Viramontes, had been murdered outside his Campbell home, ignored Rubalcaba's letters. Berton was also using heroin, another mistake in the eyes of the gang. On October 27, 1999, a year and a half after he arrived in Modesto, Berton was pulled over on his way to a carnival in Turlock. He was arrested by investigator Tim Helton for selling and transporting meth. Within minutes, the gang members confessed his role to Nuestra Familia and offered to trade information for leniency. At the time, Operation Black Widow was just getting underway, and Berton's blueprint to the gang's hierarchy was invaluable. In his interview with FBI agents the next day, Berton confessed he concocted the idea for GUN with his boss while in prison and took it out of prison with him. After the idea was ratified by the NF's leadership, he estimated the CD netted about $80,000 and that he'd sent only $5,000 to a bank account in Boise, Idaho, where a female accomplice transferred the money into separate accounts for NF prisoners. In his FBI interrogation, Berton never makes it clear whether Sir Dyno knew he was rapping for the mob or that North Star Records had been set up to launder money. He told his interviewers Sir Dyno put out Gang Stories without permission, and for that, he was very close to being placed on a hit list. After Berton ratted out his fellow gang members one by one, offering a list of 350 names, he was moved into Federal Witness Relocation Program. He has since repudiated his former gang life and spends his time writing and speaking to law enforcement gatherings about prison gangs. Berton's information casts a domino effect, eventually leading to 21 cooperating witnesses for the government. In April 2001, FBI agents, along with assistance from 24 local and state agencies, ended Operation Black Widow. Arresting the majority of the defendants was easy. They were already in prison. Sir Dyno had only been to jail once following his drug arrest. Then in late April 2001, more than 2 years since he'd last spoken to Robert Berton, he was summoned to a meeting with his parole officer. He arrived on time with one of his friends waiting in the lobby. Inside, he was greeted by FBI agents. David Rocha arrest report depicts a guy caught off guard. To Sir Dyno and his attorneys, the report demonstrates his utter confusion under unbelievable circumstances. Read another way, he's merely been persistent in denying his role. Special Agent Kelly explained to Rocha that he was being placed under arrest for violation of RICO conspiracy. The report states Rocha did not seem to understand the reason for the arrest or the charge. It was again explained to Rocha that Kelly was an FBI agent and that Rocha was being placed under arrest for RICO conspiracy. Rocha then asked for what he was being arrested, indicating that he did not understand the charge. It was explained to Rocha that the RICO charge had to do with his racketeering and his involvement with Nuestra Familia prison gang, specifically in the creating of the Generation of United Norteños compact disc and how the CD was financed. Rocha still did not understand the charge or why he was being placed into custody. Rocha was asked, "Do you want to speak to an attorney?" Rocha did not respond and went on to state, "I am a musician." He also stated something to the effect, "If you have a landscaper work on your yard, you don't care where your equipment comes from. Under federal law, it's rather easy to be declared a conspirator in a RICO case. Since the government began using the anti-racketeering statutes to take down criminal families in 1970, the definition of co-conspirator has been legally challenged and modified several times. Now the legal definition rests simply on whether a person has a slight connection to the mob. Once the government proves the existence of a criminal organization like Nuestra Familia, evidence establishing beyond a reasonable doubt defendant's connection with the conspiracy, even though the connection is slight, is sufficient to convict a defendant. If the legal standard is a slight connection, then the CD and video where Graton and Sir Dyno appeared side by side as brothers in crime may prove overkill." As a hearing last month, Stephen Gruhl, U.S. Assistant Attorney and Chief of Major Crimes, told the court that Sir Dyno's limited role with Nuestra Familia made no difference under the law. It doesn't matter if you associate with the RICO enterprise for 5 years or 5 minutes. It still makes you part of the conspiracy. At first, Sir Dyno's lead attorney, Rosalind Manson, thought she had a slam dunk, a bring on the First Amendment, let's end it now case. On the 21 original defendants, 19 are already certified as Nuestra Familia through the State Department of Corrections, and all are charged with substantive crimes, drug sales and possession, murder, and so on. Sir Dyno, however, isn't charged with any individual crime, just one count of RICO conspiracy, and his connection to the crime seems to be largely related to his performance on Generation of United Norteños. It looked like they were unhappy with the content of GUN, Manson says, and that's why David was indicted, for the content of his music. Well, if you're upset with the content, the First Amendment says, too bad. All of the early motions from Gruhl and his team of U.S. prosecutors pointed only to Sir Dyno's role in making the album. Not only does Rocha appear on the cover of the CD wearing the Norteño colors, red reads one motion, but he is seen giving signs for the Norteños. The CD includes Nuestra Familia artwork and a statement that the success of this project resulted from true Norteño unity. We applaud the carnalismo. We would like to also give a special thanks to our family, emphasis theirs, and all the warriors. Trial witness R.G. Robert Graton will testify that these messages on Rocha CD is further proof of the project's connection to the Nuestra Familia. In Manson's view, the government was already arguing that a person's identification as Norteño equaled the claim of membership in Nuestra Familia. In her written response, she pointed out that the government's logical error, all NF members and associates are Norteños. David is a Norteño, therefore David is an NF member or associate. Consider this reasoning using an unrelated example. All chickens are bipeds. Justin Ashcroft is a biped, therefore Justin Ashcroft is a chicken. But a year into the case, the government's complaint against Sir Dyno shifted course. The prosecutors revealed that Graton would testify Sir Dyno dealt meth on his behalf. The 3 ounces found in Sir Dyno's car Graton was claiming came from him, a statement which, if true, put Sir Dyno squarely within the gang's conspiracy, according to court documents. Graton says he regularly fronted Sir Dyno 4 ounces at a time. The rapper denied this new accusation. He says there's a street code, you don't ever ask too many questions, and both men stuck to that code. They're trying to say that when I met Graton, I started selling drugs for him and to finance the GUN CD. Sir Dyno says, I was already doing what I was doing, I got caught and I was doing, and then I did my time for what I was doing. It wasn't worth it to me anymore. Yet the claim that the rapper was blissfully unaware of Graton's gang connection doesn't pass the sniff test for law enforcement guys like Jared Lewis. He was more than a studio rapper, he says. You aren't just talking about some poor criminal who was abused by the NF and got drawn into the criminal net. He was a criminal too. He just happened to have this talent and he put the talent to use. Since flipping for the feds, Graton is preparing to publish a story and yet soon to be released Rise and Fall of Nuestra Familia. In it, he explains how the CD brought him unwanted attention and more money than he expected, but he never reveals whether Sir Dyno knew North Star was a front for Nuestra Familia. Ultimately, Sir Dyno's fate could come down to whether jurors believe David Rocha at home on the couch or Robert Graton, the snitch on the stand. None of the others Nuestra Familia members have a thing to say about Dyno. Manson says, Sir Graton is the guy who's going to make the entire case against David. In his word against David, and frankly, here's a guy who's committed numerous violent crimes and he's getting a free pass. At the end of the day, he gets to go home. In a corner of his home that's been scribbled with black marker by one of his kids, Sir Dyno still works daily, mixing beats on a computer, recording new rhymes, diddling on a keyboard. Since his first arrest, he'd probably produced a new CD every month. His most recent, Engrave These Words on My Stone, is probably his most cathartic, if not authentic. It's getting airtime on radio stations in the Central Valley, and Sir Dyno has gone into super marketing campaign mode, making a goal to get the ballad single Daddy's Home in rotation on 75 radio stations nationwide. My stuff has softened up a lot, Sir Dyno says. He's turned his attention to rapping about what he knows rather than what he fantasizes. I see the reality of things now, and now that's where I've gone through that. There's like no glory in it, you know. He's had plenty of times to contemplate for months. Dyno's attorneys have been trying to distance their client from the rest of the defendants and get him his own trial. The Nuestra Familia trial is expected to last 4 to 6 months, and the government will call 70 witnesses. There are 150,000 pages of discovery to sort through, photographs from dozens of crime scenes, audio tapes from hours of hidden wires, and hours of surveillance videos. After they wad through all of the evidence, jurors will then be asked to turn their attention to David Rocha. Sir Dyno's lawyers argue that a group trial will taint the jury's perception of their client at the end of the trial after Mr. Rocha spends 4 to 6 months sitting with other Latin males, the rest of whom are chained to the floor. How will jurors see him as an individual and judge him fairly in the light of limited evidence against him? They argue in one motion. It's a tough call. At home dirt, Sir Dyno says he's waiting for the truth to come out, but the phrase emerges like one that's been worn out, a fortification against a harsher truth. He stands to lose everything, but the rapper has faith the judicial process will work in his favor. He's convinced he'll get off scot-free. Preparing is something someone who's trying to hide their guilt would do, he says, fingering a synthesizer keyboard in his studio. There's nothing to prepare. I'm just going to wait for the trial. On Daddy's Home, instead of his stone-cold thug who whacks his way through the streets, Sir Dyno raps about what he truly is, a 31-year-old father facing a life sentence for his choice he made years earlier. His character on the track writes a letter to his daughter apologizing for his absence while she grows up. Again, he uses a kernel of truth to anchor his rhyme, and a metaphor to exaggerate his reality. Somewhere in between the blend of fact and fiction amount to the truth for Sir Dyno. I'm so afraid, oh my God, don't take me away, he raps slowly to the jailers who've come for him. I want to be with my family, but I've killed a man yesterday. Alright, so it looks like that's it right there. That was the whole article. Pretty good one, like I said, to get in depth. Guy Justin Berton, that dude fucking sifts through some shit. He went through a lot to get this one done. Had a couple of like personal photos of him with his kids, you know, things like this. Stuff you really don't see. Like you would see photos like this online and shit like that. This one is the one from the video. I've seen that one before. That's a little cover. I think that's the promotional. Yeah, I've seen that little promotional card before, flyer. And then this one is the exclusive one here through the magazine. Never seen that photo before. So yeah, had a lot of stuff in there. Hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, this was a 2003 October 1st article, volume 25, number 51. Extremely hard to find, but yeah, I made it available to you guys. Hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Hit it in the comments, like, subscribe, all that shit. Let me know what you think. If you love it, hate it, had some experience during this shit, know anybody in the story, I mean, let me know what's going on. Hit me in them comments. All right, much love. I'm living longer, watching these youngsters go through it. They ain't listening.